Okay. Romans 8, 35 through 39, real quickly. All right. It says, Father, we just thank you once again for the opportunity to come before your throne of glory. Father, we just pray that you open our eyes that we may see, our ears that we may hear, our hearts that we may obtain. More importantly, give us a voice that we may share. In the mighty name of Jesus. Amen. All right. So this morning, we're going to talk a little bit about Cinco de Mayo is this week, on Tuesday, I believe it is. So we're kind of going to talk a little bit about battle. So this morning we're going to read, it says, Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall tribulation or distress or persecutions or famine or nakedness or peril of sword? As it is written, For thy sake we are killed all the day long. We are accounted as sheep for the slaughter. But I say, Nay, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him that loveth us. For I am persuaded that neither death nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor powers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor height, nor depth, nor any other creature shall be able to separate us from the love of God, which is in Christ Jesus our Lord.
Amen.
Amen. All right, so we realize that we're more conquerors, and that where the sheep from the slaughter, it actually comes from Psalms 44, 21 and 22. It says, Shall not God search these out? For he knoweth the secrets of the heart. Yea, for thy sake are we killed. All the day long we are counted as sheep for the slaughter. And that was in Psalms. But it says he said, no, we're not, because we have something more than that. We have Christ which lives within inside us. And 1 Corinthians 15:57 says the same thing. It says, But thanks be to God, which giveth us victory through our Lord Jesus Christ. So we realize that the victory comes not in us, but it's in the Lord. And like I said, today we're going to talk a little bit about a couple battles, a couple men in the battles. I want to read them. You probably know this by now, but Tuesday is Cinco de Mayo, which is celebration. We called in the U.S., but in Pueblo, Mexico, which is known as the Day of Battle. In the U.S., we more or celebrate the Mexican heritage and pride of it. And for a few know that in Pueblo, though, it is observed as more of an unlikely victory that they got. And if you don't know the story, in over the French forces at the Battle of Pueblo on May the 5th, 1863, is known as, it's not the independence that some people get confused with. But anyway, Cinco de Mayo is much more. In 1861, the French invaded Veracruz, driving the president and government out. But the Mexican army of around 4,500 soldiers stood their ground against 8,000 French soldiers. And what was amazing is the army crushed them. Not only were they outnumbered, but they were outnumbered by the strongest army in the world at that time. Yeah, it's hard to believe, ain't it, that French was strong. But they had never been defeated. Within 50 years, they had never been defeated. And so what is really cool about it is, like I say, in the United States, we celebrate the Mexican history, the heritage and all that from. But really, if you think about the battle, I mean, that's pretty manly to stand up for 500 people. I mean, you're double. And of course, we do know that the French came back with 30,000 people and took over for a few years. But what I wanted to get to this morning is we see unlikely things in our lives, and we see unlikely things that God veers towards us, and we automatically, we have two views, and that's what I want to get to this morning, is we have two separate types of people or types of things. We have the one that's confident going into the battle, knowing that we're going to win. And then we have the other side of that where we think, well, God, why don't you choose me? Be the one hiding. And then God says, hey, you come, I got something for you to do. So this morning I want us to kind of look at those two different things, but I want us to see in both types of people, the same outcome was for the same purpose. And so with that being said, I want to start this morning. We're going to start with David. And of course, it's a very known story of David and Goliath, so I'm not going to get big detail into the story, because most people heard it ever since they were little kids and cartoons and all kinds of stuff. But we're going to go to 1 Samuel 17. And like I said, this is David. And I'm going to kind of just fly through this a little bit. I'm going to touch base on a couple of scriptures. We're going to start with 17 verse 1. kind of give us an idea of what's going on here. And it says, and now the Philistines gathered together their armies to battle, and were gathered together at Shelah, which belonged to Judah, and pitched between Shelah and Azekah in Ephraim's dominion. Can't pronounce that. But anyway, and it says, and Saul and the men of Israel were gathered together and pitched by the valley of Elah, and set the battle in array against the Philistines. And the Philistines stood on the mountain on the one side, and Israel stood on the on a mountain on the other side. And there was a valley between them. And there went out a champion out of the camp of Philistines named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits in a span, and he had a helmet of brass upon his head, and was armed with a coat of mail, and the weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of brass, and he had greaves and brass upon his legs, and his target of brass between his shoulders, and the staff of his spear was like a weaver's beam, and his spear's head weighed 600 shekels of iron, and one bearing a shield went before him, and he stood and cried unto the armies of Israel, and said unto them, why are ye come out to set your battle in array? Am not I a Philistine, and ye servants to Saul? Choose you a man for you, and let him come down to me. If he be able to fight with me to kill me, then will we be your servants. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then shall ye be our servants and serve us. And the Philistines said, I defile the armies of Israel this day. Give me a man that we may fight together. When Saul and all his Israel heard those words of the Philistine, they were dismayed and greatly afraid. Now, that's pretty wild, because where it says that the battle was arrayed, in other words, they were set up to battle each other. And what's wild is one was on the mountain, one was on the mountain, and the valley between them. And then you got this big old dude, and I'm not going to get into how tall he was. And I mean, we've heard everything from 9 foot to 15 foot, and his spear was 100 foot long or whatever. I'm not going to get into that. But we know he's a big old boy. and he was so big and mean and shouted that he scared everybody. I mean, it was one of them things where they said, is anybody volunteering? Everybody steps back so the guy that don't pay attention. That's what they were kind of hoping. So we get into the story and we realize that David, we know that David's brothers went off to war and David stayed back with the sheep. And so when we set the whole setup of David getting there, the armies are scared. They don't even want to come off the mountain. They ain't even talking amongst themselves who's going to go fight them. I mean, they're not saying, hey, you're a bad boy, why don't you go fight him? I mean, they're hiding. And so they're afraid, and I'm pretty sure some of them took off, hiding behind Saul. So we see David, and we see that in verse 13 through 16. I'm going to read real quickly, and it says, and of course, this is what I was saying, the 3 oldest sons of Jesse, went and followed Saul to the battle. And David, verse 14, it says, and David was the youngest, and he of the 3 eldest followed Saul. But David went and returned from Saul to feed his father's sheep in Bethlehem. So we realized that he went home to take care of the family business, I guess you would say. The 3 older brothers went to go fight in the war. But they don't want to fight either. They're hiding up there too, so they're really just hanging out in the mountain. But the one thing I want us to look at is verse 16 real quickly. And it says, and the Philistine drew near morning and evening and presented himself 40 days. So I was thinking about that this morning. Well, that just get on your nerves. Somebody, I don't know if you've ever been picked on in your life, but if you ever had somebody just every day, just as we say in Texas, jack with you, just every day, just want you to hit them or just want you to do something because they know that they're going to whip the floor out of you. Now, most people that know me, that grew up with me, know I was that idiot that would hit them or do something and get beat up every day by them. So we're looking at this guy for 40 days. He would go off the mountain down to the valley and yell up at the Israelite, the army of Saul, and challenge them every day. Now I can just imagine. And they're all sitting up there, and these are some pretty bad boys too, and Saul, he was a pretty bad guy. And they're all thinking, my God, I can't take this anymore, but I ain't going You going down there? No, I ain't going down there. Let's go see. So nobody wants to fight. So then we read a little on that David's dad sends David to go give food to his brothers because they've been sitting up there hiding for 40 days. I'm pretty sure they ain't got no food. So he sends them some cheese and some stuff. And so David shows up and he hears Goliath. He's down there cussing and yelling at the Israelites. And David's like, hey, what are y'all doing? You letting this dude defile the army of God? What's wrong with you people? And of course his brothers get mad at him. Everybody else says, well, you're just a little kid. What are you talking about? You know, you ain't going to do nothing. So then, I'm going to jump real quickly. Like I said, I'm going to kind of go through the scriptures real fast. So 23 it says, and as he was talking with them, talking about David, there came the champion again of the Philistine of Gaal, Goliath, and the armies of the Philistines. And he spoke according to the same words. And he said, and then, so he's down there right now. He's yelling up there, challenging them. And David heard him. And all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him and were so afraid. So in other words, David's there giving them something to eat. This big old Philistine guy comes out and he's yelling at him again, and everybody's scared. They go hide again. David's like, what are y'all doing? You're the army of God. So he asked him. And they get mad at him because he asked him. So we look at verse 26, and it said David spoke to the men, as I said, and they reproached him, and he went on and on. So we see that David, he's like, man, he goes, y'all can't do this. You can't just let this guy talk trash and y'all not do nothing about it. He goes, I'll fight him. And they're like, what are you going to do? You're just a kid. He goes, well, when I was tending my dad's sheep, bear came along, I killed him, lion, I tore his head off. I ain't scared of nobody. I said, because it ain't by me, but it's by the Lord. And we're going to do it. So they go tell Saul. And I love this part because you think about it. Here we got all these men, and nobody wants to fight. Now we got this little bitty kid, this little teenage guy, and he's dumb enough to go down there and fight. And so they're like, you have to think about what he's thinking. So Saul's like, well, we finally got somebody that's going to fight him. But man, if he loses, then we're going to be slaves. But if he's a pretty cocky little guy, so maybe he will be. So he's going back. So I'm pretty sure Saul's sitting there debating, going back and forth like, should we send this little guy? We got to send somebody because he's been yelling at us for 40 days, so somebody got to go down there and fight him. So I don't know what was all going on in the head, but I could just imagine that they got this young kid, and he's cocky enough to say, yeah, I'll go fight him. I done kill lions, I kill bears, and my God can do anything. So I want to touch base on that just a little bit before I get off into the story. So we look at verse 26, and I love this, and I want to read it real quick. And it says, David spoke to the men that stood by him, saying, what shall we be done to the man that killeth this Philistine, and taketh away the reproach from Israel? For who is he, this uncircumcised Philistine, that he should defile the armies of the living God? So David is saying, who is this guy, and what happens if you kill him? Because see, my God's a living God. He's not going to let this happen. So anyway, we jump down and they go, and I love this part. Saul gets him and he says, man, this guy's, he's really wanting to fight him. So let's let him go fight him. And I'm putting this in my own words. So he's a youth, and he gets him, and so they put all this armor on him. And he says, this is so funny. He says, 32, and it says, David said to Saul, let no man's heart fail because of him. Thy servant will go and fight with this Philistine. And Saul said to David, thou art not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for thou art but a youth, and he is a man of war from his youth. And David said unto Saul, thy servant keepeth the father's sheep. And as I said, he killed a bear and a lamb, or killed a bear that was trying to get the lamb, killed a lion. So we jump down and it says, and he says, he said in verse, thy servant slew both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them, seeing he hath defiled the armies of what? The living God. So David said more, the Lord that delivered me out of the paw of the lion and of the paw of the bear, he will deliver me out of the hand of this Philistine. And Saul said unto David, okay, go. Lord be with thee. So in other words, David isn't sitting there saying, I can do it, but my God, the living God, is going to do this through me. So like I said, we just have to sit there and think about it. You got this young man, most people figured he was around 16, 17 years old, this young kid. He's the youngest of all of them. And he's sitting there, he's ready to fight. He's like, hey, let me have this uncircumcised Philistine, I'm going to get him. So we read in verse 39, it says, David girded up his sword upon his arm. So Saul gave him his armor. I'm sorry, in 38, it says, Saul armed David with his armor, and he put a helmet of brass upon his head. Also he armed him with a coat of mail. And David girded his sword upon him, his armor, and he Saul to go, excuse me, and for he had not proved it, he said. And David said unto Saul, I cannot go with these, for I have not proved them. And David put them off him, and he took his staff in his hand, and he chose him 5 smooth stones out of the brook, and put them in the shepherd's bag, which he had, even in scrap, and his sling was in his hand, and he drew near to the Philistines. So I want to stop right there for real quick. So we see that I'm pretty sure the armor didn't fit. Because most people say that Saul was a pretty good sized man himself. You have this young little teenager. And that's where he says that it hasn't been proved. That hasn't been fitted yet. So he's got all this big old armor on him. And most people that share the scripture and talk about it, talks about it was just way overwhelming and it wasn't fit for him and God had a different plan. And I want us to look at that real fast because, see, if we think about if he went down there in the armor of Saul, and he went down there with the sword, and he went down there with all these things that normally a soldier would have, then would it be his glory or would it be the glory of God? See, I believe that the Spirit spoke to David and said, no, I'm not proving of this. This is not who I am. And he goes to the brook and he gets the stones because that's who he is. See, he's confident. He's cocky. He's not scared. He knows that he's going to die. But he don't need a sword. He doesn't need an armor. And so I can just imagine, I want you to think about this because I do this sometimes, but just think about Saul and all the people that are around. And his brother's already mad at him because he's going to go down there and fight and they're up there hiding. So, they're like little brothers, you idiot, kind of. And I remember those days, man. Yeah, but anyway, so we go on and Saul's sitting there thinking to himself, like, now this guy is crazy. He doesn't want any armor. He don't want a sword. He's got a little staff that he hooks and chases little sheep around with. And he's got this little thing that he just slings around. What is this? And David, he just walks on down like there's no big deal. Now, I could just imagine Saul thinking, oh, we're going to be slaves, fellas. Get ready. This big old guy's going to come up here and take us. So we got little David, and he's walking down there. And I want to read this real quickly. Like I say, everybody knows the story, so we know how it ends. But it says, in verse 40, he said, again, like I said, he took it in hand, drew it in hand. And then it says, and Philistine came on and drew near unto David, and the man that bare his shield. So both of them are coming up to David. I'm pretty sure the guy that's carrying the shield's a pretty big boy too. I mean, it's a pretty good sized shield. So it says in 42, and it says, and then when the Philistine looked about and saw David, he disdained him, for he was but a youth, and a ruddy, and of a fair countenance. And the Philistine said unto David, am I a dog, that thou comest to me with staff? And the Philistine cursed David by his gods, and the Philistine said to David, come to me, and I will give thy flesh unto the fowls of the air and the beasts of the field. So I could just, and I want you to think about this, because I was a cocky little kid, so I kind of got myself in trouble a lot of times. And when I was reading this morning, it kind of made me think about, there was a couple of times that I did stupid stuff like this, a big old boy or something, and they get that look on their face like, are you an idiot? You come to me, look at you, you little scrawny kid. So could you just imagine the Philistine and he's sitting there thinking, look at, is this a joke or y'all just, there's got to be a joke. It'd be like nowadays, where's the camera at, who's, y'all tricking me, So David, he ain't even blinking an eye. It's like, no. So what I like is that what David does next is he's like, hey, it ain't got nothing to do with me. I'm going to show you. You come with us with all this armor, with the sword and with the shield and with all the shield bearer. You come, and my God's going to deliver you into my hand today. And I don't have to have a sword.
Amen.
I don't have to have nothing. And so I could just imagine the anger of this big old Philistine, and this dude's like, I'm just going to crush his head. So he takes off running to him, and it says, and then David said unto the Philistine, thou comest to me with the sword, as I was saying, and the spear, and with the shield, but I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied. This day will the Lord deliver thee into my hand, and I will smite thee, and take thy head from thee, and I will give the carcass of the host of the Philistines this day unto the fowls of the air, and to the wild beasts of the earth, and that all the earth, and I love this, all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. Amen, amen. So anyway, as we read the story, we know they take off running. The Philistine, he gets so mad, he takes off running. And so David, he just sitting there swinging his little deal, lets go and dings the dude in the head. Boom, he falls down, kills him, goes gets his sword, chops his head off. And I'm pretty sure his head's about that big, probably couldn't even pick it up. But what I want to get to is that David knew from the very, very beginning, when he heard this guy down there talking trash about his God, his Israel, he knew that God's not going to let this happen. We're going to do something. And if you guys don't want, then I'm going to go do it. But the one thing that I really caught about this whole story, like I said, I've heard all different kinds of messages, and there's all kinds of theological things going on here. But I want us to look at one thing. He did it with a little stone. Why? Because God wanted them to know that it was God.
Yes, amen.
It wasn't a sword. It wasn't 50 guys go jump on this big old giant and get him. It was one scrawny little guy that was ruddy, which means that he was pretty. So in Texas, we'd say this little pretty boy went down there and beat the dog out of the big old giant. So he's suntanned from being out in the deal with the sheep, and he's got his little, said that it's like a little red tent. No, basically a little suntanned, pretty little boy goes down and beats up this big giant. Basically what it is, in Texas terms, I guess you would say. But we realized that it was because God wanted them, just like he said, today, all the earth is going to know that there is a God in Israel. See, that's what God's telling us. When we do things, when God moves in our lives and he does things, just like I've been sharing in the past, he said, they're going to know that it was God. It wasn't me. And that's what he does. He picks those. And he does things, great things through people that you would think would never even do it. And because he wants them to realize that it's him. And it's not that guy. It has anything to do. Now, David had to be cocky. He had to have that confidence, knowing that God is going to do it. He had no doubt in his mind. From the day he showed up with that cheese and crackers and all this stuff he was supposed to be giving them, he knew. When he heard him defile God, he knew, this is over. I'm going to shut this big old boy up. And so he did. So next we're going to look at Gideon. And I want us to look at, this is a total different story. It's a story of a battle, but in Judges 6, we're going to look at Gideon. And Gideon, he's hiding. This is in Judges 6, we're going to start with verse 11. And the backdrop of this is that Israel has been in, for 7 years, the Medians, I guess is how you pronounce it, has been under siege. In other words, they've been captive, I guess you would say, to them for 7 years. They haven't heard from God, saw God, or anything. So it says that the children of God, in verse 7, it says, the children of God cried unto the Lord because of the Midianites, and the Lord sent a prophet unto the children of Israel, which said unto them, Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, I brought you up from Egypt and brought you forth out of the house of bondage. So in other words, he's saying that help is coming. So when we go to verse 11 real quick, it says, And there came an angel of the Lord and sat under an oak, which was in Ephraim, that pertained unto Joaz the Abiezrite, and his son Gideon threshed wheat by the winepress to hide it from the Midianites. So he's hiding this stuff so they don't come and get the food, because they've taken everything. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto him and said unto him, The Lord is with thee, thou mighty man of valor. And Gideon And Gideon said unto him, O my Lord, if the Lord be with us, why then is all this befallen us? And where be all his miracles which our fathers told us of, saying, Did not the Lord bring us up from Egypt? But now the Lord hath forsaken us and delivered us into the hands of the Midianites. And the Lord looked upon him and said, Go in thy might, and thou shalt and shalt save Israel from the hand of the Midianites. Have I not sent thee? And I want to stop right there real quickly. There's two things I want to kind of get out of this before we get into it. First thing I want to look at is the angel go sit under an oak tree. Now it doesn't say how long he sat there, but I kind of got tickled with that this morning. He going to sit and he's going to relax, and Gideon's over doing the wheat, and this angel's just sitting over. Sir, go talk to him. We'll wait a little bit. He's sitting there a little longer. He's shuffling, and maybe now. But Gideon is just like us, and I get it is because right at first he says a mighty man of valor. And if you know what that means, another word, a warrior, a soldier. He's like, hey soldier, get up. We got something for you to do. He's like, oh my Lord, is he talking to me? And then he all of a sudden he realizes that he's an angel. And so it's just like us. He's like, well, hey, wait. Since you come down here and talk to me, where have y'all been? All this time. Where's all the miracles that you gave my grandpa and my great-grandpa? Where's all that stuff? We're over here shoveling, hiding our wheat so they don't take it. Where you been? And he tells them, don't worry about it. Because your might's going to come. And all you have to remember is what he said at the end, is that I sent you. See, that's what God wants us to see this morning. Is I sent you. Don't worry about nothing else. If I speak to you and I send you, I sent you. So don't worry about anything else. So Gideon, he's like, okay, hold on a minute. If you're an angel, I'm going to go get this and I'm going to make this and give this sacrifice and all this stuff. And I'm kind of paraphrasing, but I'm jumping ahead. He goes get all this stuff, and then he realizes, oh wait, he is an angel. God sent him. So now what? Now I have to go do something. God, that means God really, and then he gets scared because you ain't supposed to see God, so he's afraid he's going to die, and he says, oh, you're not going to die because I got something for you to do, basically. So Gideon, he's thinking, oh Lord, but I love this next part. I love this. Just tickles me that this just shows you how God is right here. Okay, we're going to jump to 25. And it says, and this is after Gideon realizes that he is an angel and God's sending him to deliver Israel. And it says, and it came to pass, God's telling Gideon that he needs to build an altar unto the Lord, and he called it Jehovah, and he has to, anyway, it says, and it came to pass, verse 25, came to pass the same night that the Lord spoke, said unto him, take thy father's young bullock, even the second bullock, of 7 years old, and throw down the altar of Baal that thy father hath, and cut down the grove that is by it, and build an altar unto the Lord thy God upon the top of his rock in the ordered place, and take the second bullock and offer a burnt sacrifice with, I love this, with the wood of the grove which thou shalt cut down. Then Gideon took 10 men of his servants, and did as the Lord had said unto him. And so it was, because he feared his father's household and the men of the city, that he could not do it by day, so he did it by night. Now, I know it's kind of, in Old English, it was kind of hard to understand a little bit, but what he basically told Gideon to do is you're going to take these 2 bullocks and you're going to sacrifice them. Now, Baal was the god of the Midianites. So he's telling them to go down and tear down their altar and their grove, and all the wood that you get from tearing it down, you're going to use it to burn the sacrifice to me. I love that, because it's like, hey dude, we're fixing to go pick a fight, is basically what he's saying. Is I'm going to go get these people so mad that they're going to come. And then we're just going to whip top. We're just going to be, it's like that. I don't know if y'all ever heard of that Roy D. Mercer back in the 80s and 90s. It was a radio station in Oklahoma, and they used to do pranks on people. And you would call them up there and call somebody. First thing he'd ask them was, how big a boy are you? And then they would do this prank, get somebody mad, get ready to fight, and he'd talk about opening a can of whipped A on them, but it was so funny because the first thing he would say is, how big a boy are you? So in other words, do I want to fight you or do I need to bring extra help? But so God right now, he's telling Gideon, you're fixing to go pick a fight. So go burn it, go tear it up, burn it, use it for the sacrifice. So then the next morning, of course, the townspeople come and they realize what's going on and they're freaked out. And they're like, well, you need to send them. We need to get rid of Gideon and all these people that did this. And I love what his father said, and I'm going to read this real quick. In verse 31, it says, Joaz said unto all that stood against him, will ye plead with Baal? Will ye save him? He that will plead for him, let him be dead today, die this morning. If he be a god, then let him plead for himself, because one hath cast down his altar. So in other words, he's saying, if Baal's alive, then let Baal come and do his work. Why are y'all doing one for Baal? And it's really cool because, see, we know that our God's alive. So that's what his father's saying. Hey, dude, if he's really a God, let him come and take care of his own business. So anyway, we know the story. The Midianites come, and they're getting ready to fight, like I said. So we know this whole deal was based on to pick a fight, which it did. They came, and we read later on that they came and sat at the mount, and they sent messengers to go see how many people there was. So what I want to get to this morning is, I know I'm kind of going real quickly, but I want us to see the story here. And it says, and Gideon said unto God, this is after, and I want us to really think about this because we see two things in this. We see that God took Gideon, which I think was just scared to death. He's still scared to death. He didn't want to go do it, so like I said, he didn't want to do it in the daytime because he was so afraid, so he did it at night. So he's not like David. He's not cocky. And he's not saying, oh, I'm going to go, pick a fight. But God's like, yeah, you are. We're going to pick a fight because we're going to take down their altar. So Gideon, he's like, man, I don't know. So what we're fixing to read here is I want us to see is that God's telling Gideon, you're going to save the nation. I'm sending you. You're my mighty man of valor. You're my soldier. And Gideon's not. He was in the barn, hiding wheat, basically, hiding food. And hide himself in a sense, so God's telling him, you're my soldier, you're my mighty man of valor, you're going to go do this. And so Gideon now he's already done this. I want us to think about this because Gideon's already sat and talked to an angel. Then the Lord spoke to Gideon. Gideon went and tore down the altar. Everybody wants to kill him, and nothing happens to him. Now God's saying that you're going to go and fight the Midianites. So Gideon, I don't know if you know the story, but Gideon, he's like, okay, God, if this is really you, then you got to show me. And that's what I want to read real quickly. And this is hilarious because I think of myself sometimes in this. So in verse 39, it says, and Gideon said unto God, if thou wilt save Israel by my hand, as thou said. Now he's questioning God. He's like, see, you said you're going to save by my hand. Okay, show me. He says, behold, I will put a fleece of wool in the floor, and if the dew be on the fleece only, and it be dry upon all the earth, beside then shall I know thou wilt save Israel by my hand, as thou hast said. And it was so, for he rose up early in the morning, and thrust the fleece together, and wringed the dew out of the fleece in a bowl full of water. Now, so Gideon, he's like, okay, God, if you're really going to send me to do this, then I'm going to put this little cloth down. Everything else is going to be dry except for this cloth, and it's going to be wet. So he wakes up in the morning, and I can just imagine he's thinking, there ain't no way I'm going to go out there and it's all going to be dry. And, oh, my Lord, it's soaking wet. And then he wrings it out and fills up a bowl, and he's like, oh, God. Then he goes, okay, wait, God, if it's really you, now I'm going to put it down, and everything else is going to be wet, and it's going to be dry. So we read in 39, and it says, and Gideon said unto God, let not thy anger be hot against me, and I will speak. But this once, let me prove, I pray thee, but this once with the fleece, let it now be dry only upon the fleece, and upon all the ground, and let there be dew. And God did so that night, for it was dry upon the fleece, and there was dew on all the ground. So we see that God said, okay. But I love it because Gideon's like, now God, don't be mad at me, but I really don't think it's me that you want to go, so let's do this one more time. It's like that 2 out of 3 thing. You ever do that? Going to see, okay. All right, heads, well, let's do 2 out of 3. Hold on, God. So I love that because he's like, okay. And the guy's like, okay, yeah, we'll do it again. I'm going to show you still going. So we see in chapter 7 that Gideon goes and they're getting ready to fight. And I'm gonna read, like I said, he doubted. And so I want us to look at a couple more things before I close. So now we get to the battle. And it says the Lord, chapter 7, verse 2, and it says, the Lord said unto Gideon, that he's getting all his men ready to go fight the Midianites, and they're on the north side of the hill on Moreh, and it has all these people. And anyway, verse 2, it says, and the Lord said unto Gideon, the people that are with thee are too many for me to give the Midianites into the hands, lest Israel vaunt themselves against me, saying, my own hand hath saved me. Now therefore go to proclaim in the ears of the people, saying, whosoever is fearful and afraid, let him return and depart early from Mount Gilead. And there return of the people 22,000, and there remain 10,000. Now, I see that's pretty cool right there, because God's going, okay. Now y'all think that if I let all these 22,000 people go down there and fight, then when y'all win, you're just going to say that I did it myself. And then we kind of go back and look at David the same way. He said, if he took the armor and the sword and all that, but David said, no, that's not what I'm here for. I'm not going to do it by sword. I'm going to show you that my God's going to do it. So that's what God's doing here with the Israelites, because he knows how they are. They're kind of haughty. They're going to brag about, oh, we killed him. So he says, he gives them an offer. He says, hey, if you don't want to fight, you're scared, go home. Go home to your family. Well, 12,000 of them, we know. So we're at 22,000, now we're at 10,000. So Gideon's like, oh, okay, well, all right, we still got a shot at 10. Now we look at verse 4, and it says, and the Lord said unto Gideon, the people are yet too many. Bring them down into the water, and I will try them for thee there. And it shall be that of whom I say unto thee, these shall go with thee, the same shall go with thee. And for whosoever I say unto thee, this shall not go with thee, the same shall not go. So he brought him down to the river. And he said, basically he said that whoever drinks like a dog, you're going to keep. So if they lap it up, you keep those. So he says, well, let's read it. It says, and so he brought down the people unto the water, and the Lord said unto Gideon, every one that lappeth of the water with his tongue, as a dog lappeth, him shalt thou set by his side. Likewise, every one that boweth down upon his knees to drink, and the number of them that lapped, putting their head to their mouth, were 300 men, but all the rest of them bowed down upon their knees and drank water. So in other words, he's showing Gideon again, these guys are going to keep. So I want us to think about that real quickly. We started 22,000 people. We get down to 10,000 people. Now God's telling Gideon, the guys that drink like a dog, they can go. The other ones drink with this. This is how you're going to determine it. And now we're 300 people. I'm pretty sure Gideon's thinking, oh God, I got to be dreaming this. Now this is the point where I would be doing the fleece thing again. I would be saying, okay God, we have 300 people. Let's do this fleece thing again. If it's wet, then we go to stay. If it's not, we're going. Because I'd be like, oh no God. 22,000 people down to 300 people. So anyway, make a long story short, we all know that the story, they go. And what I really love is that he takes the 300 people and he tells Gideon that you're not going to fight. So I'm pretty sure Gideon, in my words, it's paraphrasing, he pretty much tells Gideon, you're not going to fight, don't worry about it. You're going to split these 300 people up and you're going to just blow trumpets. So Gideon, I just see him, he's still questioning. It's like, well God, so God says, why don't you go down and spy, I'm going to show you something. And Gideon's scared. He goes, well I can go down there. So he tells him, okay, go take this guy with you, he's a pretty bad boy, take him with you. And he'll help you. So Gideon, he goes down, and I'm going to read it real quickly. It says, and it came to pass that same night that the Lord said unto him, Arise, get thee down unto the host, for I have delivered it into thy hand. But he was fearful, as I said, and so he'd go down with this other guy, and they shall hear that there shall say, and afterwards shall thy hands be strengthened to go down unto the host. Then went he down, and Phurah his servant, unto the outside of the armored men. And now we've got, he's down at the campground, and it says that they're all encamped about it, and they're like grasshoppers. So he says, and it says, and thou shalt hear, and it says the Mennonites, and sorry, hold on, I lost my track here. It says in verse 12, it says, and the Midianites and the Amalekites and all the children of the east lay among in the valley like grasshoppers, for a multitude. So there's so many of them. Their camels were without number, and like the sands of the sea, and the multitude was just great. And when Gideon was come, behold, there was a man that told a dream unto his fellow, and said, Behold, I dreamed a dream, and lo, a cake of barley bread tumbled into the house of the Midian, and came unto a tent, and smote it, and it fell, and overturned it, that the tent lay along. And his fellow answered and said, This is nothing else except the sword of Gideon, the son of Joash, a man of Israel. And to his hand hath God delivered the Midianite and all the host. And so this guy's sitting there telling them that he had a dream that God's going to deliver all the Midianites to Gideon and the Israelites. And so they're already with. It's over. We read the story, it goes on, and they separate, and they blow the trumpets, and everybody takes off running, and they start killing each other. But what I want to get to this morning on this is with David, we saw David, he was just strong and confident, and he knew that the Lord was going to do it. Gideon was afraid, and he was constantly questioning God. Are you sure? And then he says, go down and listen. I want to tell you something. I want to show you that they're scared of you. See, and that's what we have to get, is there's certain things in our lives that we battle with. But no matter what it is, it's addictions, it's fear, it's finances, it's job, whatever, the sickness we're going through now. We battle these things. And yes, we're afraid, and we question God, and we ask God. And like I say, we do the 2 out of 3 things, and we do the fleece. And so what God's trying to show us this morning is with Gideon, even though he was afraid, when he went down, they were just as scared as him. Because they knew who sinned. See, we have to go all the way back to the very first of the book of when he said, don't worry, know that I sent you.
Yes.
If we can have that in our hearts and in our minds, that we know that he sent us, then we don't have to fear. Now we may question, we may be like Gideon, we may want to fleece of water, and we may want to, go from 22,000 to 300, and we're questioning God, this is just crazy. But the reason he did that was so they would know that it was the Lord.
Yes.
It wasn't them. Yes, God could have sent the 22,000 down and killed all of them and done all the things that he wanted to do, but he didn't. So he said, the Lord said unto Gideon, the people that are with thee are too many for me to give the Midianites into their hands, lest Israel vaunt themselves against me, saying, my own hand hath saved me. So basically they would be able to boast. And that's what I want us to see this morning, is that we have to get to the point that we realize that it's not us that did it. I'm not up here because of Timmy. I'm up here because the Lord gave me the strength to do this. I'm up here because he gives me the knowledge to read, because I'm a very uneducated person. But what we have to understand is that it's not me. And that's what he did with David, with the armor of stone. He could have still killed Goliath with the sword. He could have done all the things that he wanted because he had the power of God with him. But that ain't what God wanted. He wanted him to use a stone to show that it was God that did it.
Yes, amen.
Just like with Gideon. He didn't want Gideon to send 22,000 people down there and fight. No, he went down there and they were already scared of him. When they heard the trumpets of the 300 men spread out apart, they ran.
Yes.
So the whole time, I could just imagine Gideon, the whole time he's thinking, okay, this ain't right, God. You got me over here, and first thing you got me to pick a fight with these people because I burnt their altar down. Then now you're telling me I can't take 22,000 people. Now I get 10. Well, oh wait, I can't take 10,000. I got to take 300. So I could just imagine, and we do that in our minds. We start off and we think, okay, God, this is going cool. I can deal with this, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, wait, God. We started off with 22,000. Now I'm down to 10. How am I going to do this with 10,000 people? Then now we're 300 people. And you're like, oh wait, no, God. And he says, hey, go down, I want to show you something. And I love this part because this makes me feel like he tells me, go down, I want to show you something, Tim. I'm like, well, I don't want to go by myself, God. Send somebody with me. So he's like, okay, take this dude with you. He's going to help you. And so he goes down and he sees it. And it's kind of that confirmation thing, like I said, but we get like that sometimes. We're like, God, I don't know. Are you really talking to me? Have somebody else come to you, talk to them, and they can tell me, yeah, that was God. So what I'm saying is that this morning, God chooses some of the most ridiculous things that we think is ridiculous. But it's that path that He wants us on because there's no doubt.
Yes.
There's no doubt that it's God.
No.
See, if He gives us a tank, and we go demolish things with the tank, then there's no doubt it was the tank. But if He gives us a little bitty rock and we go throw it about this big old giant, then we know it's God. But we have to have, we can either be like David. There's some of us that are like David that have all the confidence in the world. We say, yeah, you're going to die today, big boy. Or we're like Gideon and we're like, God, show me something, help me through this. And then all the way through the whole steps, but then all of a sudden it's not even what Gideon didn't even have to lift the finger. He blew a trumpet. And so we have to realize is that God does these things so He can be magnified. So people can see who He is. Just like David said, today, all the earth is going to know that there is a God in Israel. Amen. And just like with Gideon, they're going to know it's not going to be that Israel can boast and say, we did this. No, they're going to say God did this. And that's why He does it. That's why sometimes He gives us a stone instead of a sword. Sometimes He gives us 300 people instead of 22,000 people. But what do we do with it? We have to realize that it's all about Him. And I'm going to close real quickly, and I know I've been rambling. I'm going to close with Psalms 20 and verse 5 through 9 real quickly. And I am going to close with this, I promise. It says in Psalms 20, this is actually David's chief musical guy. He wrote this. And it says, and we will rejoice in the salvation, and in the name of our God, we will set up our banners. The Lord fulfilled all our petitions. Now know that the Lord saved His anointed. He will hear him from His holy heaven with the saving strength of His right hand. Some trust in chariots, some in horses, but we remember the name of the Lord our God. They are brought down and fallen, but we are risen and stand upright. Save, Lord, the King, hear us, we call. So in other words, we don't have to have chariots, we don't have to have war horses, we don't have to have any of that. All we have to have is the Lord.
Yes.
All we have to realize is that He is the one that goes before us. He's the one that showed the young man the dream, that knew that it was the sword of Gideon. He's the one that delivered him. And like I said, I love these two stories because we see two totally different kind of men. But God did the same thing in both of them. He won a battle with that person. Now we know David went off to do great things, and we know Gideon did too. But we have to realize is that it was all in the purpose of God. The stone instead of the armor. The 300 instead of the 22,000. It was also they can't boast. And we do that sometimes. We get haughty and think that, oh, look at what I did. Look at, oh, I prayed for so-and-so and he got healed. Look, he's walking now. Or, hey, look, I saved 20 people yesterday. Did you see, man, I was just preaching so all the people falling on the ground. No, I did. God did.
Yes, amen.
And that's sometimes we get to that place in our lives to where we get haughty. We get to where we think that it's us. It's all. Now, we do have to do the work. We have to be the person to pick up the stone to throw it. We have to be the person to go down and choose the 300 people. We have to be that. Yes, we have to step up and do what God wants us to do, but it's the power of the Lord that does it through us. And that's what He's trying to show us. That's what He's trying to show me. It's not me. It's what He does through me. And that's the blessing of it. That's what makes us happy. That's what our joy should come from, is that He's using me to do those things. He's allowing me to bless others. He's allowing me to do the things because He says that He could raise up the rocks if He wanted to. But He chose us. He chose you. He chose me. And like He said to Gideon, don't worry about it. Just know that I sent you. And that's what He's telling us this morning. Just know that I sent you. Whether you don't have to have the sword. It could be a stone. Like I said, I could keep going. But I just want us to understand this morning is, let's realize that it's a blessing in itself that God uses us, that we get to be. Because I say this all the time. If He used a rooster or He used a donkey, I'm glad that He uses me, because I'm a little bit better than a donkey, No, I'm just kidding. But let's just remember that He sent us. And if we can keep that in our hearts and not let it get overwhelmed to where we think it's us and forget that it's Him. See, and that goes back to being in trouble and being in doubt and the fears of this and the fears of that and all the things going on, especially the time we're in now. We have to realize it's all about Him and that He sent us. And like I said, I'm going to close with that. I hope y'all enjoyed it. If you got any prayer requests,